Welcome back. Just before the break, we made a bench hook, we made some winding sticks, we looked at some timber, and we decided we needed to straighten it. And I explained how to use winding sticks. Now, when we know where the twist is, we'll machine it out. By the way, if you ever use a vise and you find that your timber's slipping, use water. A couple of squirts of water works miracles. Thing is, people are scared about using water in timber, but when you think about it, that's how timber's grown. So it should be pretty used to it. Right, now first off, I use a scrub plane and I hit the high spots. When I think I've just about got it, I'll put the winding sticks back on and sight down. Just a little bit more to go there. It's the advantage of having that extra fatness with rough sawn, you can take a bit out. Okay, that's nice and flat. So what I do now is go down the entire board using the scrub plane. And back again. Might give it one more. Now that's given me a very severe checkerboard pattern. To flatten that out a bit more, I'll use what I call the hogging plane, which is converted number 4. Same process on the diagonal and then back again. That should be nearly good enough to put in the thicknesser, but I prefer to go over to make sure it's as smooth as I can get it. That's why I use a joining plane. And you'll notice, to start with, I'm not taking much off. That's because the plane is riding over the ridges. But as we work down, the shavings get stronger and stronger. By the way, if you ever wanted to join a gym, buy a couple of hand planes and give yourself a workout, half an hour a day. Best aerobics you can have. That now is straight enough and flat enough to go into the jointer. The thicknesser. I'll go and put it through right now. Okay, as you can see, that board now is parallel with each other, both faces. But now we've got to get an edge at 90 degrees to the two faces. And how you do that, once again, is putting it in the vise and using a jointing plane. If you've got a jointer, that's fine, but you'll still need to use a shooting plane to remove the jointing marks. Before we do that, let's just have a look at the grain. It's very important that you can read grain. If you look here, you can see the grain is going uphill. And it's very much like stroking a cat. If you stroke a cat from the head to the tail, cat's happy, it's nice and smooth. Go from the tail to the head, cat's not happy, and no one has a good time. So we've got to plane what they call uphill. And that's true when you're using your jointer. Because the blades are running this way, it has to lay the grain down. Your thicknesser, same thing, only the blade's on the top, so it has to lay the grain down. So we'll put that in a vise, and we'll shoot a nice square edge. Something I find invaluable in the workshop, bit of candle grease, works wonders. Now when you start to plane, you'll notice I'm only taking a little bit off the board. The reason for that is because the board isn't straight to start with. If I'm using a number 4 plane, and the board's wobbly, that's how the plane's going to do. It'll follow its contours. So I won't get that crisp, nice, sharp, straight edge I'm looking for. But with a jointing plane, it crosses all the hills and valleys and it'll give us a straight edge. Another thing, people plane, they use their arms a lot. That wears you out. I like having my body fairly central to the board that I'm planing and use my body, get that out a bit, my body weight to propel the plane, except for the last little bit where I move my arms. You might find too, when you're planing, you have a tendency to roll the plane. I'm left-handed, so I roll the plane towards me, which means this side is generally higher than this side. If you're right-handed, the opposite is generally true. So how I compensate for that is I put my fingers under the sole of the plane, thumb down on the knob, grab hold of the tote, point the finger, and I take a very small shaving off the high edge. If you can see that, I'm not doing the full width of the board, but that's taking the high spot off. As I do continuing shaves, eventually I get nice wide shavings. Then I know the board's flat. We'll check it with a square. And that's nice and true. All right, once we've shot a board, we've got it flat, we've got it square. Unfortunately, nowadays, we don't have the luxury we used to of being able to get wide boards. Now, the top of this side table is nearly 300 mil, and it's hard to get boards that wide, so we have to join them. There are many methods on the market today of joining boards, but I prefer the traditional one, which is called a sprung joint. Now, a sprung joint, when laid two pieces of timber side by side, puts pressure on the ends. I don't know if you've ever seen a table that's been in the weather, it's got splits on the ends. It's a good chance that it wasn't done with a sprung joint. It was either a butt joint or was doweled together. Because wood, even though the tree is dead, is still living. When it's wet, it expands. When it's dry, it contracts. That's how we get splits. But after the break, I'll show you how to do a sprung joint and explain why I believe it's the superior joint to have in furniture anyway. See you after the break.